Welcome back inside Gillette Stadium, everybody. My name is Mike Petraglia, joined as always by Patriots expert columnist for WEEI.com, Christopher Price. Chris, that was more like 43-17. The Patriots lay an absolute butt whipping on the previously undefeated Cincinnati Bengals with 3 games. They came in here and they essentially ran into a buzzsaw in the New England Patriots. The Patriots had everything in the world to prove, and really what impressed me, Chris, is the business-like manner in which they did it in the first 2 drives, led by an emotional Tom Brady, as emotional as I've seen him in many, many years.
They answered the bell tonight. I think that's something that was very clear from the start. I think this was a team that really struggled out of the gate over the course of the first 4 games. They created some big deficits for themselves, and ultimately, really, in a lot of ways, they weren't able to respond. They responded in a big way tonight. They were able to score in their first 2 drives. They put the Bengals right back on their heels. They controlled the tempo of the game. They ran the ball. They won the time possession battle, if I remember correctly. And they did all the little things that we did not see from this team over the course of the first 4 games, including show some real mental toughness.
I thought the first 2 drives, Tom Brady was about as verbal with the opposition, also as I've seen him in quite a while. From the moment the PSA from Jay-Z came onto the field, it came on the speakers, and Tom Brady runs onto the field, he looked fired up. He was yelling right over to your left into the stands, yelling at himself. He was emotionally ready to play this game.
He really was, and it was very interesting that a lot of guys in the locker room, Matthew Slater, Rob Gronkowski being 2 of them, 2 of the most vocal, they both said very clearly, we wanted to win this thing for Tom. We were really aware of the beating he took in the national media over the course of the week. He has basically saved this franchise's bacon on a number of occasions.
Right.
Tonight, they wanted to get one for him, and they certainly did.
I had a chance to ask Tom Brady, okay, this is 1 win. And many, many times Tom Brady has said, we've been in a bad spot. We come out after a bad loss, and we answer the bell, like you said, with a big win. My question to him was, okay, does one big win like this turn everything around? Are the first 4 weeks pretty much forgotten, and are you guys on your way? His answer to me is, we'll see how we prepare and get ready for the 3-2 Buffalo Bills next week in Buffalo.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they can build on this. That's the next question. What they put together tonight was fantastic on both sides of the ball. Special teams had a big play for a touchdown. The defense was able to lock down A.J. Green. I thought it was very interesting to see Darrelle Revis spend most of the night following around A.J. Green.
Even with a bad hammy.
Exactly, and I think he did a very good job. I think he ended with either 4 or 5 catches. I know 4 with Revis on him and what appeared to be man coverage. So, yeah, I think it was very big for this team to get this win. But the key now was to build on it, to go forward, and to be able to put the same kind of showing together for a game in 7 days up against Buffalo.
You know what struck me about Bill Belichick, if anything can strike you about a post-game Bill Belichick presser, was how monotone he was and how matter-of-fact he was. And I think, you know what, Chris, what he's really saying there is, we're going to react the same way after a big win that we do a big loss. I'm not going to get all wrapped up in what the criticism was of this team. As a matter of fact, Christopher Gasper of the Boston Globe asked Belichick if he heard any of the noise, and he was happy with the way the team responded. And Belichick said, with all due respect, we don't pay attention to the criticism. And it showed tonight. They blocked everything out.
Well, I do think that they like to say that. At the same time, we know
so you're not buying it completely?
No, I'm not buying it completely. We know that the Patriots do pay attention to the newspapers. I've had players come up and tell me that they've read my stories and they know what's going on. So they're aware of stuff like that. I think the real key for any successful team is to handle success and failure in the same fashion. I think that's what we saw from Belichick tonight. I think that's the message that he wanted to get across tonight. I think the one thing, if you're a Patriots fan, to take out of this game that you're not entirely thrilled with, double digits in penalties.
Horrible.
Exactly. Really. The penalties were bad. Now you can blame some of that on Jerome Boger and the crew and the new rules, but at the same time, this is a Patriots team that is on pace to set an NFL record for most penalties in a season. You don't want to harp on something like that tonight because it seems almost like nitpicking, but at the same time, it's important to remember you got to cut that stuff back. I know that we all know the same story. The Seahawks led the league in penalties last year. They still won the Super Bowl. That is not sustainable for this Patriots team, the way they go about playing. Yards are at a premium on both sides of the ball. They can't play like that going forward.
A lot of big picture stuff here tonight, Chris, about the feel-good, the turnaround. As on a short week, 6 days after getting the doors blown off in Kansas City, they turn it around. Let's talk some of the X's and O's of this game. I thought the special teams, you mentioned earlier, Brandon Bolden with the big hit on Brandon Tate, Kyle Arrington with the 6-yard return for the touchdown. at the time, I thought that was a huge, huge special teams play in this game.
I'm not 100% sure as to what the score was at that point, but you had a feeling that the Bengals were in danger of getting back into it a little bit. They'd cut the lead. They'd started to play pretty well. The Patriots offense...
I think it was 20-10 at the time.
Exactly. They were a little bit sluggish, and it looked like the Bengals may have had an opening at that point, but the Patriots were able to slam that door shut pretty quickly. I also think it's worth noting, Stephen Gostkowski, 5 field goals, as well as hitting on all his extra points. It's easy to take a kicker for granted, but as we saw in the Detroit game today, that can come back and bite you more often than not. So kudos to Stephen Gostkowski, his performance. I thought it was a very impressive group of special teamers across the board.
Actually, that special teams play that we mentioned, now that I think of it in my right off the top of my mind, the Patriots were up 27-10, and the Patriots kicked off and got an additional touchdown, so that made it 34-10. And really, at that point, I think the fate of the Bengals had been sealed. A couple of injury notes, Chris. I want to get your take on the shoulder injury of Dominique Easley, and also the rib injury of Devin McCourty.
I don't think it was a coincidence that not soon after McCourty left the game, the Bengals attacked the center of the field deep. I think that's going to be something worth watching going forward. I also think, and we can debate about this, but I wonder how much Chandler Jones' inactivity tonight was tied to his past struggles against the run. They were going up against a pretty good run team tonight, the Bengals.
I think that's a great adjustment, by the way, if that's the case.
Exactly, but I also think that maybe they were guarding against further injury to that shoulder. He wasn't at 100%, so maybe that was one of the reasons why he didn't play. He kind of scooted out of the locker room pretty quickly, so I wonder if that has something to do with it. The other injury, and we saw him in the locker room, he was talking, it doesn't appear to be a problem afterwards, is Darrell Revis.
Oh, right.
Revis talked, exactly. He suffered a hamstring injury, was down, for an extended period of time, walked off, went to the locker room. Turns out he looks like he's okay going forward. You never know how those are going to respond, but at this point he looks to be okay. I think the really interesting thing, though, is the defensive end position, because if they don't have Easley and they don't have Chandler Jones, Michael Buchanan is the only other defensive end who's seen an extended period of time on this team, so that's certainly a position to watch going forward.
Okay, what is the tone this week as the Patriots get ready for a pretty big AFC Eastern Division showdown next week in Buffalo against the Bills? Both teams 3-2.
You can seize control of the division. Divisional games are always important. They're always paramount. Even in years where the division isn't all that great, they're always important. And there's always an added emphasis on winning divisional games, because that's the first step in the process with this team, whether it's winning division and then going on securing the playoff spot and going from there. You want to do your best, you want to do your level best to win all your divisional games, because the Patriots right now, they're 0-1 in their division. I mean, they lost their opener against the Dolphins, so you want to be able to even ledger there. You also want to be able to send a bit of a message to the Bills that, you're feeling pretty good about yourself, but we're going to come in and try and knock you down today.
All right, the Patriots gain over 500 yards against one of the very best defenses in the National Football League, but again, the Cincinnati Bengals play pretty small in prime time. They got blasted last year in December in Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football. Pretty much the same story as the Patriots take care of business. All is well for at least one day, and maybe this coming week. We'll see how things turn out next week in Buffalo. Final again, it was the Patriots 43 and the Bengals 17. For Christopher Price, I'm Mike Petraglia, inside Gillette Stadium, WEEI.com.